Councillors, officers and members of the public, welcome to the 3rd of July 2024 Ordinary Meeting of Council. I will now open the meeting with the first item on this evening's agenda, the reading of the prayer. Almighty God, be with us as we work for the people of the Shire of Moorabool. Grant us wisdom that we may care for the Shire as true stewards of your creation. May we be aware of the great responsibilities placed upon us. Help us to be just in all our dealings, and may our work prosper for the good of all. Amen. I will now read the Acknowledgement of Country. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. In accordance with Moorabool Shire Council's governance rules, the Council will be recording and live streaming this meeting. The Moorabool News and Star Weekly have also been granted permission to record this meeting. Item 4 and 5, present and apologies. We have all councillors in attendance with Councillor Berry online. Item 6, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, do we have any questions in regards to last month's minutes? No. Could, for the minutes for the 5th of June 2024 and also the special meeting of Council on the 26th of June, could I have a councillor to confirm and move those minutes, please? Councillor?
And the 12th of June.
Sorry, 5th, 12th and 26th. Sorry, missed that. Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. You move, yes? Yep. And seconded by Councillor Ward. Any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. Item 7, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Does any councillor have a conflict of interest to declare? No. Number 8, public question time. We have no public question time submissions. Number 9, petitions. We have no petitions to be considered at this meeting. Number 10, there are presentations and deputations. There are 2 speakers to an item registered to speak at this evening's meeting. They will each be called upon to address council when the relevant item is being considered, which is 11.2. Item 11, Chief Executive Officer reports. Councillors, we have item 11.1, Risk Management Framework and Policy Adoption. Do I have a councillor to move the recommendation outlined in the paper? Councillor Dudzik? Thank you. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Do I have any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. Item 11.2, proposed feature commemorative renaming, Elaine Recreation Reserve to Ron Reid Recreation Reserve. We have 2 registered speakers to this item. I will just pause for a moment until we are able to get the first speaker online. He's not online at the moment. Okay, we'll move to the second speaker who is in person tonight. Diane Cook has registered to speak to this item, and we have Joyce Reid, who is representing Diane Cook in person. Diane, you would like to come to the front? Sorry, Joyce. Getting the names mixed up, sorry. Mrs. Reid. Thank you. You could just press the button. You'll have 3 minutes to present to council.
3 minutes, all right.
After that time, councillors may ask you some questions if they wish. Thank you.
I'm reading this on behalf of Diane Cook, the chairperson, and I thank the council for the opportunity to speak on the proposal put forward to rename the Rec Reserve at Elaine the Ron Reid Rec Reserve. The signed petition was forwarded to council 2.5 years ago after community support for honouring the late Ron Reid was raised. However, we were somewhat surprised and saddened to view a complete breakdown of the result of the poll posted on social media 3 days ago. Having said that, I would still like to enlighten everyone on the reasoning behind the original proposal. A little bit of history. In December 2001, there was no operational football, tennis or cricket club, and the reserve was overgrown so much that consideration was given to the site for grazing. In February 2004, the then Rec Reserve Committee resigned through lack of interest. In September 2004, a group of community-minded locals reformed a new Recreation Reserve Committee. These volunteers were faced with the daunting task of an overgrown oval and tennis court, the pavilion in disrepair, tennis club room with rotting weatherboards and outdated toilet block. They set out to reclaim the reserve, holding many working bees. Ron organised teams of locals, young and old. Pine trees were felled, clean-ups done, fencing, and along the railway side a planting of native trees and shrubs. Then pine trees at the front of the reserve were felled to make way for car parking. Ron became chairperson of the Rec Reserve in 2008 and immediately pushed to buy the land that the pavilion and tennis courts were situated on from the railways. Ron, together with Councillor Tom Sullivan, negotiated for several years to achieve the purchase of this portion of land. During the years of drought, Ron, often with his old mate Jimmy Connell, hand-watered the many trees from drums of water on the back of Ron's truck. During his time as chairperson, improvements were initiated by him: replacement of the cubby house, undercover barbecue area with a free barbecue table and chairs, 2 new tennis courts and fencing, trees around the oval, updates to the cricket pavilion and a viewing window in the tennis club room that Ronnie provided, air conditioners to the tennis and cricket rooms, a new toilet block and shade sails over the playground. So what you see at the Elaine Rec Reserve is mostly due to the timeless hard work of Ron over 3 decades. Ron would say, "I didn't do it on my own," and he would be right. However, no one can deny that Ron Reid was the driving force, often behind the scenes, in achieving the end result of which the young and old of today have a picturesque, functional and updated facility to enjoy. On closing, I'd like to mention the fact that in 2015, Ron received Senior Citizen of the Year award from the Victorian Government in recognition and appreciation. That is why the petition was raised, to acknowledge the dedication this man put in to resurrecting the reserve at Elaine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs Reid. Councillors, do we have any questions for Mrs Reid? No.
No?
Thank you very much. Sorry.
Not so much a question. I'd just like to say beautifully spoken, and thank you for that summary of Ron's contribution to the Elaine Recreation Reserve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Reid. Okay, we'll go back. Do we have Mr Dunn online? No, not yet. No? Well, we must push forward. Yes. Councillors, you have a recommendation outlined in the agenda tonight. Do I have a mover?
Madam Chair, I'm just wondering, it'd be Council's indulgence, could we just defer this for perhaps a month, just to have a conversation, given the circumstance there and with the facility, perhaps to have a conversation with those who are strongly opposed to this, as per the Suffolk come in, just to see whether we could find some middle ground. So I'm just asking councillors, would they consider that for
I'll second that, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you.
A mover and a seconder. Any dissent? All those in favour? It is deferred. Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillors, we will now move on to the Community Planning and Development Reports. Item 12.1, Draft Bacchus Marsh Town Centre Structure Plan. There are no registered speakers to this item. Do I have a councillor to move the recommendation outlined in the agenda? Thank you, Councillor Edwards.
I move, Madam Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ward. Do I have any dissent? All those in favour? Carried.
Madam Mayor, can I just say that it's a significant body of work that's been done by officers on that. Looking forward to getting comment back.
Thank you, Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Next report is item 12.2, response to the notice of motion number 315, provision of a snake removal service. There is no registered speaker to this item. Councillors, you have a recommendation in the papers before you regarding the report. Do I have a councillor to move the recommendation?
I'll move that we receive the report.
Councillor Edwards, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I happy to second.
Do I have any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. Councillors, we will now move on to Community Strengthening Report, item 13.1, Young Community Strategy Community Consultation Report. Do I have a councillor to move the recommendation outlined in the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I have a question, if I may, please.
Yes, Councillor Sullivan.
On page 194 of our business paper, our 8 copies, under action 2.3, I just want somebody to advise me what that will look like for Moorabool Shire. And I'll, excuse me, with your indulgence, I'll read what it says. It's under one of the actions. It's to support the development of a reconciliation action plan. What would that look like for Moorabool?
Ms McCallum, thank you.
Thank you. Through the Chair. Councillor Sullivan, in response to the question raised, should Council determine that RAP is a priority into the future, the action in the Young Community Strategy would support this. So it's just linking that together in the future.
So, but I'm just sort of suppose the question is what would that report look like for Moorabool Shire? What are we proposing to do? I'm sort of mindful of some of the discussion that Councillor Tatchell has had about the land claims and what have you. Is that sort of wrapped up in this or not?
McCallum.
Through the Chair, the action that's specified in the Young Community Strategy identifies support for the development of a RAP, should that be a priority for Council into the future.
Thank you. All right. Do I have a mover for the item? Did I have a mover? No. Councillors, I'm in your hands.
Oh, I'm happy to move it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ward, do I have a seconder? Councillor Berry, you are seconding. Do I have any dissent? Councillor Sullivan. All right, we will go to a debate. Councillor Ward, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move the Young Community Strategy. I've been excited by the opportunities presented through the regular updates, through the drafting of this strategy. And I've also been, I suppose I commend the officers involved in the extensive community debate, community engagement that's gone on through the preparation of this. I think through the feedback gained, the pathway it charts for our young communities through health and wellbeing, community engagement, participation, education and learning, and safety and inclusion are critical. And now more so than ever, with the challenges we're facing, increasingly facing right across not just Moorabool Shire but our country with our youth. So I think this gives us a clear and very strong strategy for our young communities moving forward, and I commend the piece of work to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Sullivan is the opposing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do this with a heavy heart, to be honest with you. It's not like, I know the work that's gone into this, but when we have a document that goes from birth to the age of 25, I mean, at 18, you can drive a car, you can vote, you can go to the hotel, and yet we're proposing to extend this document up to people to the age of 25. When I was 25, I'd been 9 years in the workforce. I just sort of think this is just, I just can't fathom why we're extending it to the age of 25. It just seems, certainly in the early years, it's quite imperative, and that's the formative years and the years that really you need to focus on. But when you get to that level, I just struggle as to why we would be even doing that. In parts of it, I pick up that there's sort of division. We start identifying groups and peoples rather than including everybody. Because when you start identifying a group, no matter who they are, then you're sort of playing a game of division, and I just don't think that's reasonable and one that I could support. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Berry, as a seconder, would you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to support this young strategy. I understand what Councillor Sullivan's saying on the 0 to 25, and we were in the health and wellbeing meeting, both Councillor Dudzik and myself, and we did discuss some time ago briefly that age gap, but when you look at a lot of the youth out there that are doing extensive courses in universities that need probably to get supported because they're not out in the workforce, that's how old these youth are still training and learning at universities. So yeah, I'm okay with that age gap. It drills down later into the different age gaps and what will be contributed to them. So yeah, I'm happy with the strategy. It's been a lot of work put into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Do I have any other councillors that wish to speak on the item? Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm with Tom on this. I think once we get to 25, when I had 2 kids at 25, I'd already served in the army for 6 years. 19, you can go overseas and go to war and carry a rifle. I mean, I was talking to someone on Sunday night, 21 years old, a school teacher already. So, I mean, the more we start to mollycoddle people into these sort of in their 20s, at what point do they grow up? I mean, I think most of us in this room have got children, and in my case, adult children. I think at some point they need to be able to stand up as adults. Or what do we say? That, you know, go to a nightclub in Ballarat and see how smart they are at 20 on a Saturday night. But isn't it time that we start to put some responsibility back onto these 20-plus-year-olds? And it's time they grew up, to be honest. I think it's about time that, I mean, they're pretty easy to jump on adults and say, well, you know, we've had it easy. Well, you know, maybe they should have joined me in me baggy green hat and seen how easy it was. Or maybe, you know, they should have picked up a rifle and seen how easy it was. You know, I'm fed up with this sort of rubbish. And I don't even think it's in council's lane to be doing this. I understand that we need to be looking after young people. And you only got to pick up the Herald Sun every day and you'll see what youth are doing in Melbourne and that leftist weak society that we've allowed these children to get away with what they're doing now. And then we wonder why by the time they get to 25 they're out of control. At what point do the parents start to take some control over these children? And I mean, I was talking to a school teacher on Sunday night that said she was called all the expletives you could possibly imagine in words that I may have never have used, especially in company. And had that teacher spoken back or done anything to that child, she would have lost her job. And yet the child, at 15, was actually counselled and then counselled again, and we actually pay as taxpayers to have people look after it. At what point do the parents take responsibility? So I'm with Tom on this. I think it's absolutely atrocious that we, as a council, consider 25-year-olds to be children. You know, for my money, at 25, if you haven't grown up by then, you're never going to grow up. And that's the reality. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Tatchell. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to speak for the item. There are some concerns that I have, but I think that's driven by state government and most of our policies now, where we have to identify individual groups, which disappoints me, because I don't think that that's what we as a Shire should be about. We should be about inclusion for everybody equally. However, if we don't do these things and we don't put them in our documents, we don't receive funding, right? That's the state government, the way they plan. And as for the fact when we talk about, you know, being under 25, this is not a children's strategy, this is a young person's. And I would argue and contend that at 25, married, 3 kids, I think I was married with 2 kids at that age as well, Councillor Thatchell, I'm still what I would have considered a young community. So what this document is trying to do is actually provide us with a strategy to deal with those groups. So we have an aged care strategy which deals with those people, you know, in their latter years, which we could argue some of us will be included in that. We have a strategy for really young people, but we quite often miss out on those middle groups. They quite often need a lot of support. It's quite often some of the most stressful times of your life is in that period, you know, peer group pressures, drugs, alcohol. As Councillor Sullivan said, at 18 you can go to the pub, it's all new. And if you don't have some of that support in place, then the reality is that people can fall through the cracks and go wayward. So with that, I actually am for this strategy. I think it will provide Moorabool with a framework to move forward. And as to how that gets implemented, well, that'll be for the next council to decide. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Is there any other councillors that wish to speak? Councillor Dudzik.
While the age group up to 25 is confusing, the content in this document is actually very important. It covers everything from maternal and child health, play groups, youth services, schools, planning for the future for young people. And it's such an important document in itself, covers so many different initiatives that cover from birth to, yes, 25, that I think there's no other option but to support this document, because all these services are very much needed by young people in the community. Yes, going up to the age of 25 seems a stretch, but some people are different. Some people need more support than others. And yes, a young person under the age of 25 can still be at uni and living at home with mum. Not everyone's in the workforce. So, yeah, I support this document.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. I will now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Vaughan. You can close the debate. I'm sorry, I rushed through.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, I am pleased to be given the opportunity to close the debate. And I do acknowledge Councillor Sullivan has previously questioned whether 25 was the appropriate age. So I do acknowledge that, and I'll take on board what he said. But what I do say is I'm confident the young community strategy is very much not rubbish, and it's not an atrocious piece of work. I think it's an exciting piece of work, and it's well within our council's lane and areas of responsibility. I think we certainly have a responsibility. Whether we're arguing about semantics or not is probably not the important thing. It's the content within. So I don't know whether 25, 23, 21 or 18 is the right age, but what I do know is we need a young community strategy to ensure that we can keep the youth and those young people in our community engaged. The community supported this. And I think they commended us on a very progressive policy. I was reading the comments, and they showed strong support for a birth to 25-year-old strategy. So we have to listen to our community. It talks about it gives us important aims like a youth centre and additional schooling within the Shire, and it talks about keeping the youth and the young community engaged. I note the comments about treating everyone equally, but the bottom line is we have a very, very diverse community. We're a diverse country, and that's something to be celebrated. But we owe it to those that are underrepresented and those that are living in social isolation to actually identify parts in this strategy for us to engage with them. It talks about community engagement. It doesn't matter whether you're going to a community working be at 16 or 25. You want people to engage with the community, and if this helps people aged 15 or 21 or 25 to be engaged with the community, we're going to have a better community. So it's a real positive. It gives us direction for education and learning, talks about schooling, health and wellbeing, and importantly, Madam Mayor, I'll finish with safety and inclusion. You only have to look at all the tragedies of past times where communities are becoming increasingly unsafe. This talks about having a safe community for our young people. It couldn't be more important, so I commend it.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Okay, we will now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. The next report is item 13.2, Community Asset Committee's reports. Councillors, do I have a councillor to move the recommendation outlined in your papers tonight? Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. Item 13.3, advisory committees of council reports. Again, you have a recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move? Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. Seconded by Councillor Edwards. Any dissent? All those in favour? Is carried. Item 14, other reports. There are no other reports listed in the agenda. Item 15, notices of motion. We have one notice of motion on the agenda tonight. 15.1 is the proposed sister city arrangement with this council of, how do I say that? Garb? I should have practiced that. On the island of Gozo, Malta. Councillors, you have a recommendation in the paper before you regarding the report. Do I have a councillor to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Ward. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Edwards.
I just have a question, if I may, before you.
Yes, Councillor Sullivan.
Will the cost of that sort of be part of that report?
Sorry?
Would the cost of actually doing such a thing be part of that report? I know there's, opportunities there, but will the cost form part of it? That's all. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, there we go. So we have a mover and a seconder. Do I have any dissent? Councillor Tatchell. Okay. Councillor Ward, you can open the debate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I suppose I'm not proposing any sister city arrangement because I think it's important to recognise what you don't know, and I don't know what the benefits are of sister city arrangements. But what I do know is last year we were approached by the Mayor of Garb, I think you did say it right, from the island of Gozo in Malta, to approach the Moorabool Shire to have a sister city arrangement with them. So the purpose of this notice of motion is to simply investigate the value, the worth and the benefits. I've deliberately waited 8, 9, 10 months to put this up because we've had more pressing matters. But what I don't know is, what I did not know was that the Marian Tarpinu Shrine here in Bacchus Marsh draws many visitors from Malta and the Maltese community and other communities. And if by having a sister city arrangement with the island of Gozo in Malta, we can attract more visitors to Moorabool and invest in our economy, which is an important feature of our visitor economy strategy, then I see benefit, well, I would see potential benefits for Moorabool. So the purpose of this report is not to enter into an arrangement, it's to investigate the worth of an arrangement. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Tatchell, as the opposing, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, 9/10 to agree with sister city arrangements are generally fairly sensible and they're normally beneficial to both parties. It is a lot of work to do a report on a sister city arrangement. It's not, you don't just become a sister city, and it does need to be maintained. So I'll make a couple of points about this particular city. And we've been offered sister cities before. Zhangjiagang in China, which has over 1.5 million people, and it's probably the marketing capital of the world, really, or probably the productivity-wise. And we actually signed an agreement with Moorabool in terms of how we trade directly with the people who are involved in our shire. And in fact, we have one of our businesses in the shire that buys 80% of Australia's fine wool and puts it through that place. We didn't go into an arrangement on a sister city because of the alignments everywhere else. I could say the same for Villanois with the Somme, when they sent the French students over here, where we have a synergy in terms of World War I, the Avenue of Honour, where they came across, and many Bacchus Marsh Moorabool soldiers were protected during the First World War by relations of those people. So these are the ones that got knocked back in the past to do a report on. So when we talk about this particular city, and I know the good mayor of Garb has been trying to get a sister city with just about every shire in the world. He has a fairly checkered past. He's been tried many times in his own region for usury offences and for corruption. I know he's still...
Point of order, I don't think that's appropriate in a council meeting to pass disparagement on anyone.
Thank you.
With respect.
Thank you, Councillor.
These are written in
Councillor Tatchell, just...
Wikipedia. It's
Councillor
well known
Tatchell.
around the world. So
Just, yeah, if we can try and be a bit more respectful, that'd be nice. Thank you.
we better try. I mean, do you want me to stick up a Ned Kelly too?
I think we'll try and stick to the notice of motion.
Point of order, I think it says in our meeting procedures that we are not to do that.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I get back to the point?
Yes.
Anyhow, the point is there's 1,400 people live in this place, 400 families. The guy that's trying to do this got 290 votes, which is probably half of his family. I noticed in the report that there's agricultural synergies. To put it in perspective, this is 4.6 square kilometres of land, where an international report was done on this city to say 73% of it, or 73% of their agriculture, was an abject failure. Now, we could spend X amount of dollars doing a report to explore the avenue of creating a sister city with a obtuse place with 1,400 people. Or if we are going to explore sister cities, why don't we, at the very least, consider it against places that are beneficial to our shire and probably have the same synergies in terms of our operations, to make sure that we do it in a sensible way. And at the moment our officers are up to their neck in work on reports, and I think 5 minutes on Google and you'll soon decide that this is probably not appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. As a seconder, Councillor Edwards, would you like to speak?
Yeah, certainly, Madam Mayor. Some good debate here. I didn't know sister cities was such a hot topic, but to be quite honest, I don't know much about sister cities other than the fact that I've seen there's many arrangements with different shires, and I don't know what the benefits are. I don't know what the negatives are. I certainly don't know the city of Garb and their 700 people. However, what I would hope to get out of a report from council would be that if there are better options, for example, Councillor Thatchell's named 2 or 3 that have some sort of relationship with Moorabool, that may be teased out in a report. Yes, officers are very busy, I understand that. We haven't put a by next Thursday date on it. Some of these things can take time, but I think it's something that is probably worthwhile at least understanding whether it's worthwhile even considering, whether it be Garb, whether it be a city sister in China. So therefore, I would look forward to reading the report.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Are there any other councillors that wish to speak on the item? Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I've had a little bit to do with exchange situations in a school situation where it was a similar thing with sister cities. Now, they went on for many years but have dried up in many circumstances. But with the sister city situation for our shire, and if we're just going to consider the Maltese one, I'm with the other councillors, I'd suggest looking at other situations, because if we just look at the growing population in our shire at the moment, the subcontinent group of people moving in, that might be an option to look at those other countries as well. So if we, the China one is an option, all the subcontinent ones, and we all know very well that there are quite a few families moving into our area. So whilst I like the idea of sister cities, I'd like to see some extension on other countries into the report as well.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Thank you. Any other councillors that would wish to speak? No. Okay. Councillor Ward, you can close the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I said at the start, it's important to recognise what you don't know, and I don't know a lot about sister city arrangements. But once the Mayor of Garb, or I think has been Mayor for 17 or 18 years, I stand to be corrected, came out to visit us and to visit the shrine and explained its ties to the Mother Church of Our Lady Ta Pinu Shrine in Malta, and the amount of Maltese tourists that came out to Moorabool to look at the shrine and approached us to look at this. I thought, well, I need to learn more about sister city arrangements, and that's why I've called upon the expertise of our staff to investigate it. So purely and simply, I'm not proposing that we enter into it. I'm proposing by this notice of motion to investigate the benefits of it. And I've asked to look at tourism opportunities, business development, best practice and improvement capability, education, cultural support. And if it comes back that there is no value, then I won't support it. But if it comes back and sees value, then I think it's worth considering. But I don't know until we actually investigate it. And that's the point of this notice of motion, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Okay, we will now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? It is lost. Okay, item 16, notices of rescission. There are no notices of rescission listed in the agenda tonight. Item 17, item 17.1, Mayor's Report. Councillors, my Mayor's Report is in your papers. Do I have someone to move it, please? Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sullivan, thank you. All those, any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. Item 18, Councillors' reports. Councillors, I will go around the room. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Just your microphone, Councillor Sullivan.
I want to get away with it. Thank you. There's just a few items to report to Council. On Thursday, the 30th of June, I attended a Timbertown Victoria's meeting online. One of the attendees at the meeting had been to the 7th International Fire Behaviour and Fuels Conference at Canberra from the 16th to the 18th of April. And he gave us a report, and I have a copy of that, which was quite illuminating, and made the point that we spend 96% of our resources on fighting fires, but only 4% preventing fires, which I thought was an interesting statistic, and I suppose when you think about it, it's probably true. Just another few dot points of interest. There was 84 million hectares of land burned in Northern Australia in 2023, and which I wasn't aware of before. And this one I did find quite interesting, councillors. I'm hoping I'm not boring you. The eucalypt trees and why they are so fire prone. The Speaker spoke of isoprene units and terpenes, which went on to explain the volatility of the eucalypt forests, with some of the unique properties having a flash point as low as 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Jet fuel is 38 degrees Fahrenheit and diesel is 62 degrees Fahrenheit. So it does sort of highlight the volatility of eucalypt plantations. So anyway, that was quite interesting. And he also made the point that some of the Indigenous speaker who noted that fire cannot heal some of the country because it's too far gone, which I thought was rather interesting. But anyway, if anyone wants, I can get a copy of that. I'd also just like to acknowledge we had two recipients of Australia Day, King's Birthday. Sorry, I got my public holidays mixed up there. King's Birthday honours, a lady from Blackwood, I understand, and also Mrs. Marlene Gilson from Gordon. And Marlene's service was for the visual arts. So I'm just sort of flagging, perhaps in general business, councillors, I might move that council write to the Blackwood recipient and Marlene under seal from council, congratulating them on behalf of Moorabool Shire. So I'll just flag that. The other matter I'd like to respond to is, you may recall at the 3rd of June council meeting, a question was asked regarding motion C9 from the Municipal Association MAV State Council meeting held at the Melbourne Town Hall on the 17th of May this year. There was an officer's response back to the questioner, and they've come back with another query. So I just want to sort of advise councillors that the MAV State Council was not live streamed, and the unconfirmed minutes of the meeting have not been made public and will not be made public until the next MAV State Council to be held later this year, which is the normal course. The fact that the meeting was not live streamed and the unconfirmed minutes not being publicly available raised some interesting questions. I contacted the MAV and they are concerned about the apparent leak and are investigating the matter. I'm sure the MAV would be keen to know how the questioner became aware of the information from the MAV State Council. I spoke against C19 and noted the following points. Everyone should feel safe and respected for who they are. Everyone should be treated the same. The thrust of the motion in the debate tended to treat people as a commodity rather than as a person or people. I would suggest that the motion would seem to be inclusive, but it was somewhat divisive. It's identity politics. Some of the comments made by those who supported the motion talked of members of their community who had alternative views as bigots, which again is hardly inclusive. When you start identifying people as a product, tie a tag on them, it undermines the value of a person, and I would say the fabric that holds us all together. Councils who wish to engage with other councils in this matter can do so already. They don't require the MAV to be involved. I also note that motion C9 was passed by the State Council. The tenor of the question, the question that came to us, the tenor of the question I understand, it seems to suggest that Moorabool is not responsive to LGBTQ communities. I would totally refute this assertion, as I believe Moorabool Shire respects and supports all members of our community. I would challenge anyone to cite a Moorabool Shire document where we are not inclusive. At Moorabool, we are a broad church with people from all sorts of backgrounds. We strive to be fair, equitable and caring of all our residents. I think the last line of our council prayer, which is read out at the opening of every council meeting, I believe sums it up. Help us to be just in all our dealings, and may our work prosper for the good of all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan.
That's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and well said, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you.
I don't have so much a report, but just more so a comment. This week in Bacchus Marsh, there was a funeral for a young guy who took his own life, who played junior and senior football for two local clubs and most recently played at Melton. There would have been over 1,000 people at that funeral this week for those that saw the number of people down the main street. And I didn't want to mention it during the debate about the young community strategy, but that's why I was so passionate about it, particularly the health and wellbeing aspect of it. This week also coincided with Are You OK Day. The largest cause of death of Australians between the ages of 18 and 35 is suicide. The largest cause of death of men in Australia under age 50 is suicide, and 3 out of 4 suicides are men. And it's a national tragedy, and it doesn't get the debate that it deserves. So I know the young community strategy was not about men 35 to 50, and it wasn't specifically about suicides. However, anything that we can do to improve their mental health and engagement with our youth, I'm a passionate supporter of, and I just wanted to note the tragic passing of that young footballer and outstanding young man, and I'm just wanted to again say anything that we can do to improve the support for people and have mental health issues, I'd be fully supportive of, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Tatchell, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I've got two things. One would be I just want to congratulate the staff on the library show that we did the other Saturday morning.
Celebration?
Celebration, I suppose, of the fence, I suppose. I just want to note that when the Commonwealth Bank left this community, it copped a lot of criticism, as did a lot of banks that left small towns. And I know when I came here some 35 years ago that there was 4 or 5 banks in the main street. In fact, where the newsagent was a bank. So, the Commonwealth Bank were extremely good to Moorabool Shire in coming to an arrangement with Derek and myself on that land and gave it away basically for what its value was. And I know banks don't often get a good rap, but in terms of the positioning of where that library is going to be, I just think it's duly noted that the Commonwealth Bank assisted. And I'd like to send them a letter and say, yes, there is going to be a library there, and because otherwise I think we con them at the boardroom table. But anyhow, if we could do that. My second one, I just want to note the passing of James Hay, or Jimmy. He's been in the aged care centre for some time. James and I go back a long way. I mean, especially in this community, and Jimmy was an extraordinary man. I mean, at one time he had 3,000 people under him in the Saudi desert working for oil. He ran Laminex Industries. He ran PRA, the refinery. He ran Port Stanback, the refinery. Extraordinary man. And he lived in Colebrook, which is just out the road, and then later moved out to Gordon. And Jimmy served under the Nasho system in the 60s when the Vietnam War opened up. He was one of those people that was just extraordinary through life. He had a very tough start. His dad was a preacher that spent 14 years of his life in an iron lung during the polio epidemic, which made it incredibly tough on Jimmy and his sister. He still managed to get an engineer's degree and still managed to find his way in the world. And about 12 or 13 years ago, he was struck down with dementia, and at that time he was on 5 or 6 boards that were all working incredibly hard for our community to build the community, and using what I call his little black book and his vast knowledge, both internationally and domestically, to take us into to take this town in particular, and probably this region, into areas we probably wouldn't have had doors open for. The decline was very gradual, but it was very effective and difficult for James and Kate, his dear wife. They moved off the farm some time ago from Mount Edgerton, and then came into town. And it wasn't long after that he went into permanent care. Of course, during the COVID period, it had a very detrimental effect on James because of that stimulation and ability to talk to people. And I think the last time we seen him as a council was at an Anzac Day event 2 years ago, and he was in pretty poor condition then, and a very emotional man. I'm proud to say that Jimmy and I were great friends, and even though probably in his final years he had no idea who I was, but he always had room for a hug, and he always had room for chat, even if we were on different planes at that point. So I'd just like to give my thanks to James. There wasn't a do here that he didn't have his hand on, that he worked incredibly hard for this community when he retired. He gave us great expertise, and things like the Bendigo Bank, and working with Estelle and his crew. If it hadn't been for James's expertise, I'm sure it probably would have taken a lot longer. And it's very sad when these people go, especially because it's been a few years and there was a massive air gap between COVID and then what happens afterwards, and where people have sort of disappeared from each other. And I dare say, whilst his last days weren't lonely due to his family, that community contact that is so essential to us all, the tribe that we belong to, was probably taken away from him during COVID and never returned. So I know that's a lot to say about a guy, and I know I probably have a conflict of interest because I genuinely thought he was one of life's gentlemen. But tonight is all about just explaining the great things he did for our community, and Tommy would know as well that he's never had a bad word to say about anybody, and there was plenty of times he could have. So God bless him, and if you see Kate in the streets, she's struggling a bit too. So if you see her, just it wouldn't hurt to dip a tea bag into a cup and just sit there with her and tell her it's going to be okay. Anyhow, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Touchland. And yes, he was a wonderful man. Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate the Bacchus Marsh Rotary Club for a very successful art show on the June long weekend. Once again, I attended the opening night, and we certainly do have some very talented artists in our region. And I know I've said this many times, it'd be great someday to see an art gallery in our shire, so these artists can showcase all their talented work. On the 11th of June, Tuesday, was the Neighbours Place AGM at the St Bernard's Parish Hall. Just congratulations to all those that are part of that group, all the great work they do. They provide so much food and help to residents in our shire. I didn't get the figures this year. I was a bit scared to ask because it had gone up to 6,000, feeding 6,000 people last year. So well done to the Neighbours Place. 10 a.m. Wednesday, the 12th of June, was at the announcement of the funding for the off-leash dog park, which will be fantastic when it occurs at Mason's Lane. I did note while we were there was a lot of people running around with quite large dogs that were off-leash while we were there. So it'll be nice to see the off-leash park when it's completed. 20th of June, Thursday, went to the Mirrabul Shire Youth Art Awards. Again, talented artists in our shire. Well done to staff for organising that event. There was activities for some of the artists to do, and I think they hung around right until the end, and some great food, so well done to the staff. And 11 o'clock Saturday, the 22nd of June, I attended, along with the Mayor and Councillor Tatchell, the Bolan Library Community Hub, Maclean Reserve. I'd like to congratulate staff on that. I think having it on a Saturday, there was a lot of children attending. It was fantastic, all the different, the animal pens, the artwork, the face painting. I think it was a great success for having that announcement happen on a Saturday. So great work to the staff. That's all, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillor Dudzik.
It's been a bit of an arty month for me. I went on the second day of the Rotary Art Show, which was fabulous as always, and they do an excellent job. It was also at the Youth Art Awards, and with the Mayor and Councillor Ward and Councillor Berry. Congratulations to all the young people on their fantastic pieces of artwork, and also to the staff on organising a great event for young people. And just like Councillor Berry, I would also like to see an art space in Moorabool in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. Councillor Edwards.
Nothing to report other than I just want to put a bit of congratulations to Bacchus Marsh Football Club. They run a big freeze event. They've done it for a number of years now, and it's really hard enough to run clubs these days with getting volunteers, but to run an event like that every year, I don't know what the final figure they raised this year, but I believe they've $56,000 from our local community for MND, which is a really good cause, and it just shows you that the country spirit still sits within our shire. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Can I have a councillor to move that we receive the councillor reports, please? Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Any dissent? All those in favour? Carried. Councillors, the next item of agenda is urgent business. I will go around the room again. Any urgent business, Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to flag whether I need to move a motion or just sort of have it done. It was just that if we could write to under seal to Mrs Gilson of Gordon and the Blackwood recipient of the King's Birthday Order of Australia Awards, congratulating them on their respective awards. So can that be done? I can move a motion if you want, or
yes,
everyone happy just to sort of...
We will move a motion,
oh,
yes.
well, I'd have to sort of then say to council...
Happy to second.
Thank you. We'll get out the preliminaries. Just if that could be arranged, that would be a great outcome. It's heartening to see that sort of acknowledgement of people's contribution to community and to have some local people involved. And I think it's very supportive, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
But
Sullivan.
just have
Sorry.
another question.
Oops, I'll just
sorry,
finish.
Sorry. Yep.
Was there any dissent on that? No. All those in favour?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a query. It's not, with our petition format, it sort of has troubled me for some time, and just something that's occurred to me. I know we have a name, but could we actually make sure there is a signature? I'm not a handwriting expert, but sometimes it would look like this same person has written down several names. So I think it's more important that we actually have a name and a signature, which is a unique identifier. So I think just something to consider going forward, that we need to look at that.
Governance, thanks.
So through the chair, I'll have to look into that, whether it could be a breach of privacy if we're using people's signatures in addition to their name, because obviously that can be used publicly if we're making it public.
I'm not suggesting that. I could point some examples, if you like, where, as I said, I'm no handwriting expert and I'm not a forensic scientist. However, there is a lot of similarity between these names that are written there, and all I'm saying is to put a bit more rigour around it. I'm not saying they have to be published. I'm saying when they come into the organisation, they should at least have a signature, because it has no real value until there's a signature, that's all.
Yeah, I can. So through the chair, yes, we actually do have to have a signature for every petition that does come through.
We do have to have a signature.
It's part of the petition process.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Well, yeah, we can take that offline.
Thank you. No other.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Any urgent business, Councillor Ward?
No, Madam Mayor.
Any urgent business, Councillor Tatchell?
No, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Berry? Any urgent business?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any urgent business, Councillor Dudzik?
No, Madam Mayor.
And Councillor Edwards? Nope, good. Okay, councillors, we have 2 reports to be considered in a closed session of the meeting to the public this evening. We will take a 5-minute break. Thank you, Councillor Sullivan, for moving to adjourn the meeting, and a seconded by Councillor Edwards. All those in favour? All those in favour? I need some hands. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, we'll close. Thank you.